Welcome to the Advice Show, Media, the Common Sense Approach. So I know most of you remember that I done a video a while back about Creflo Dollar, the pastor of World Changers Church out of College Park, Georgia. He also have another church in the New York area. And after I had done this video, I had received a message on Facebook from a woman that stated that she had a lot of inside information that would really go on inside the church that most people do not know. I wrote back with her. We ended up speaking on the phone, and, she wanted to tell, the people what's really going on in World Changers Church and how Creflo Dollar is nothing but one of them pimp preachers. And he's not out for the salvation of, God's people. He's out to make a buck. And some of the numbers you're going to hear is going to be astronomical. So what this man is asking people to pay weekly. Not just that $65 million that you heard him was exposed in the media doing. But let me go ahead and roll the interview with the sister, and I'll be back. So we're here with former World Changers member, Taretha. Now, she emailed me on Facebook and stated some things that I thought that was very interesting. As we got done with the story about Creflo Dollar and the $65 million jet, her email upon other emails I've received, but it was something in her email that caught my attention more than the other ones. And I say, well, maybe I should reach out to her and see what she's talking about, because she stated in her email that she had some inside information based on her being in service there at the church. So how you doing, Taretha?
Good morning, Brother Phil. I'm well, thank you.
All right. So what made you reach out to me after you heard about your pastor or seeing the video?
What made me really reach out to you was because I know that you have a respectable show and you have a good following base. But I wanted to give you some inside information that I think people should know about, because maybe it can be helpful to some other congregation members so they won't be deceived any longer, basically.
So how long were you going to the church itself?
I was a member of World Changers Church in New York for about 12 to 14 years.
Now, what initially attracted you to go to World Changers Church itself?
I saw Pastor Dollar on television, on the Word Network many times, and I thought he was a good teacher. And I decided when he came to New York, he started renting space at the Madison Square Garden. So I actually went to a service, and, seeing him in person was much better than on TV. I got the full Pastor Dollar service.
Okay, so you was, definitely liking the teaching, and you received at World Changers, you decided to join the church. So once you joined the church, what was the first time that something happened that made you question, like, well, what's really going on here, outside of the first initial feelings that, you had when you joined with excitement?
It was back in 2004. They had an open call for people who were interested in joining the production team.
Mm-hmm.
And, I signed up for it, and along with a couple of friends of mine. But it turned out that the people that were on the executive board, they had this little clique going on. And they were choosing people that they already knew and people that were friends of theirs, which then it made no sense for it to be an open call if you were going to do that.
So now this executive board, is it made up of, what are their titles? Are they considered deacon, elder, are they ministers? Who makes up this board?
I didn't know of anyone's titles. We were just to call them by their name. So I know one person who was there on the executive board was a mutual friend of me and another person that signed up. And I already knew he was crooked because I knew him from another church. So I was trying to stay clear of him. But he was on that executive board. And what happened, if I may tell you, because we didn't speak about this before, what happened was he actually stole some work from me. And then when I came to present my work...
Who is he stole, and what did they steal?
A former friend of mine. I don't know if I should put his name out there. He stole a body of work from me, a film.
Oh, okay. He stole a film from you. I mean, was this film something that you had copyright to, or something like that?
Yes, it was. And I was there, and I was presenting that as, let's say, part of a portfolio. As a body of work so that they can see, how I write. Mm-hmm. And he ended up asking me, are we going to submit what we wrote? But we didn't write anything. It was I that wrote it. So when we had that conversation, all of a sudden I received a letter in the mail saying, we don't need you. So this was the first thing that happened to me at this church.
Okay.
Back in 2004.
After 2004. Now, did you leave the church after that happened, or you stayed at the church?
I left for a while because I tried to continue going, but something in my spirit wasn't right. I was like, this can't be going on. You have to be a part of this inside clique. And then the higher-ups didn't know what the executive board was doing because there were people higher than them. And so you couldn't get to these people, and you'll never be able to get to Pastor Dollar, to let him know what's going on. So I'm guessing that these people are the people whom he entrusted in dealing with these certain situations and people and teams.
Well, you just stated that you couldn't get to Pastor Dollar to let him know something is going on in the church. Why is it that you couldn't get to Pastor Dollar?
Oh, he's untouchable.
No, what do you mean?
He's untouchable. First of all, he's surrounded by bodyguards.
What do you
constantly
mean? Okay, a preacher's walking around with bodyguards. How many do you estimate he walks around with?
Well, from what I've seen in the church, I know of about 4, but I'm not sure how many, he travels with, but yeah, he's untouchable.
Well, why do you think that he do that? Do you think he's in fear of his life? Do you think, why do you think he does that?
My personal opinion is that he doesn't want to deal with common folk because he has other people in place to deal with that. He likes to tell us that his schedule doesn't permit him to be on a commercial flight or, to do these other things that pastors of the church actually do.
Okay, so...
Which is maybe shake a hand, maybe you can have a meeting. These things don't happen.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. The whole time you went there, have you ever shook his hand and said, Pastor, I appreciate the message or something like that?
No.
Not one time?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so...
Not one time, ever.
So you're telling me Creflo Dollar does not do what most preachers do in America is shake hands and talk to the people?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay, so he can't talk to the people, but do he lead tithe and offering part of the service?
He does most times.
He does most of the time. Now,
yes.
You had stated something to me when you had got involved with the World Changers Church before they moved into that theater building. Are they still in the theater building?
Yes.
Okay. When they were doing church in Madison Square Garden, now I heard they got a lease. At least from what I read, it's a lease. Now I don't know if they bought it. I don't know. Do you know if the lease turned into a purchase?
No, he did tell us that he tried to purchase Madison Square Garden, and the people were looking at him like he was crazy. But I know that he was renting out the Walmart Theater for a short time until he purchased the building, Lowe's Paradise, in the Bronx, New York.
Okay, so he purchased the building. Now, you had stated to me in the previous conversation that he tried, when he was at the Madison Square Garden before they moved to the place they are now, that he tried to raise $81 million?
$81 million he was trying to raise to build a church around the Astoria area.
Okay, and how many people you think donated, and estimated how much did they raise?
I'm not sure how much they raised, but he did have a tally up, and each week they would go through, how much was being raised. I didn't stay. I stopped going for a while because of the things that were happening on the inside. So I don't know actually how much was raised.
So Creflo, this isn't Creflo Dollar's first rodeo of asking church members to pay for something in well over excess, because we know the G650 jet was $65 million, and he was asking the members to pay $81 million to get a building itself. Now, you also stated to me, and make sure to correct me if I'm wrong, that he would ask for the people to do donations for around Thanksgiving time or different times, but he wouldn't state to the media that it was a church movement. It was more so something that he did. Is that make sure correct me if I'm wrong, that you had stated that to me?
That's accurate. That's accurate. He was asking people to donate whatever they could donate, canned goods or whatever. And then he turned around, and the day that he was talking about giving out Thanksgiving turkeys, all of a sudden the media was there to catch this, newspapers, cameras, and all these things, as if he was doing it himself.
Okay.
He made this donation, but he always asks the congregation for money. Another case is, he's stating, in the past couple of months that he needs new cameras because the equipment that he has is out of date, it's not working, they're having problems. So he tells the congregation, okay, we need $2 million for new cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So this is when I started thinking, because he's always been a great teacher. I'm not taking that away from him. But how great do you think you are when you come into a poor community and you're asking us to pay for everything for you, and for your ministry? It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if we had $2 million, to give you for cameras, we wouldn't be living where we're living.
Well, it makes plenty of sense, to be honest with you, because unfortunately there are a lot of people in this world who are followers. A lot of people do not read the Bible. They say they're Christian, but they have not read that Bible. They haven't went to not even a small piece of seminary. And this is why I tell Christian people who's listening, how can you say you're a Christian and you have not attended any kind of seminary, not to become a preacher, but just to learn the Bible that you say that is important to you in your faith, and something that's very pivotal for your life. And people like Creflo Dollar or any other preacher that wants to take things to themselves, like say the donations, and then when the media show up, I did it. You can't get around the guy. And all this other stuff. Now, let me ask you something else that you had told me to happen at a church service. I thought also that people need to know was very interesting, about the story about his daughter's song on iTunes.
Oh my goodness! One thing Pastor Dollar doesn't like is if your phones are out unless you're using it to look up scripture or something of that nature. So one day we're sitting and the service was about to begin, and his daughter wrote this song that he's just overjoyed by, and he's letting her sing it like every week. The daughter's name is Jordan, and one day, right at the beginning of the service, he tells everybody, I want you to take out your phones. So we take out our phones, and he says, I want you to go to iTunes. And so everybody's looking around. And then he says, I want you to buy my daughter's single. And we all just looked at each other like, did he really just do that? Because he loves talking about how he doesn't want opportunists in his church. But if that was that wasn't opportunistic, I don't know what is.
Let me cover that real quick. Then we get to that opportunist word. How many people you estimate you saw just dug their head down and buying that song? I mean, at least from you when you start looking around.
Not many. We were all shocked. There's people still talking about that today.
Okay, so he's asking you to purchase music on iTunes for his daughter, and I mean, people should purchase the song based off the merits of if somebody like it or not because he's trying to use his influence to put money in his daughter's pocket. And no one decides to tell him or email him or something and say, wait a minute, what this got to do with church? What this got to do with the Bible? And then the other time we can't have a phone. See, and he's telling people he don't like opportunists, but yet he takes the time himself to be an opportunist to let people use their cell phone all of a sudden to buy something off of iTunes that had nothing to do with the church. Now, that is something. Now, he says opportunist. Why is it that he has such a big issue about someone being an opportunist when, Jesus want us to help each other, to help each other's talents grow, so we could do something? It seems to me by you using the word opportunist that he's the only one that can, flourish and do what he wants to do, and anybody else he view as a threat to take his pimp.
Absolutely. Everything is for the benefit of the church. All service members were made to take a members class, and this is where what I say is the initial brainwashing, what he calls spiritual employment. Okay, we all know what service is, but it's to make sure that you understand that whatever you do and in service to this church belongs to the church and no one else, as if you're nameless.
Now, you stated, speaking of that, that you have to sign some sort of secrecy contract?
Absolutely. Yes, they give you a department head of a particular team would give you a paper, a contract. It's a binding contract. Once you sign it, they will give you a contract stating that anything that you give them, any work for any song, anything, that you're giving up all your rights to them, and it belongs to the church.
And did they say anything about you can't speak on the inner workings of the church any kind of way in that contract?
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
What would happen
to stay inside?
And what would happen if you would violate the terms of that contract?
You would have to go. They would make it impossible for you to stay.
Okay, and have you known anyone?
What I wanted to say was that this is not a church. It's a business, period.
So you said Creflo Dollar runs his quote-unquote church like a business. All right. So
absolutely.
So before we get into that, let's talk about that. Have you known anybody who violated the terms of that contract?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Because you have stated
specifically, I couldn't name anybody.
Because you have stated that
I know that there are people that did not sign the contract, and I was one of them.
Okay, because you have made a statement that if you violate that contract, they'll make it difficult for you, and you said that you would have to go. That's why I asked the question. Well, like where you're getting that assessment from? Is it from you saw somebody? It happened to somebody? You heard it happen to somebody?
Well, it happened to me.
Okay, it happened. Okay, all right, it happened to you. So, what did you do to violate the terms of the contract you did not sign? What did you do?
I did not sign. That was the first thing. What did I do? I didn't do anything. I've been humbled through the whole process. I was having trouble serving because the department head had an issue with me. Okay, she had an issue with me, and it was unfounded. But I think a lot of times when you have a situation between two people, and this department head has been involved with the church for years on end, and that person has a certain amount of influence. So if she says something to other people, like I said, it's like a little clique going on. It's not like, it is a clique going on within the church. So it kind of makes things uncomfortable for you when you've done nothing, and instead of being professionals and having a meeting or saying, what's going on, is there a problem, none of that happened. Everything was like people just began like not responding, which I thought that was really crazy that you just took whatever she said to be fact and moved on with that. But let me just state this right now. She is no longer working for World Changers Church New York. She was terminated. Okay, so that's God on my side. Okay, so they found out a little bit too late, but at least they found out.
Well, at least from what I've read, the Lord didn't put nobody under no contract in the Gospels. None of the apostles under contract. And also, you should know that the Lord doesn't support you running around with cliques inside of a church house. But yet, some people in these churches go there every Sunday. Now, let me talk about something that we all talk about is the tithing. Now, did you know that Creflo Dollar stated in a message that if people who do not tithe should be shot?
I mean, I thought about when we first built the dome, I wanted to put some of those little moving bars and give everybody a little card. They stick it in a little computer slot, and if they were tithing, beautiful music would go off, and welcome, welcome, welcome to the World Dome. But if they were non-tithers, the bar would lock up, the red and blue lights would start going, the siren would go off, and a voice would go throughout the entire dome. Crook, 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 crook. Security would go and apprehend them, and once we got them all together, we'd line them up in the front and pass out Uzis by the ushers. We'd point our Uzis right at all those non-tithing members because we want God to come to church. And at the count of 3 Jesuses, we'd shoot them all dead.
Have you ever heard, anything about that message? It's widely circled online.
I never heard him say it personally, but I've heard about it.
Okay, so it's easily to find online, and most of us have seen it already. How do you feel about a pastor stating that if a person does not tithe, they should be shot? Because the way he described it is that, a person who tithe, he said it should be an alarm on the church, and they tithe, it should, bells go off and everything, say hallelujah and all this other stuff. And if they don't tithe, then an alarm should go off and they should be shot. Why is the tithe so important to Creflo Dollar? Why? Why does he emphasize tithing?
Wow. I think there's a couple of reasons. One, the laws that go around these, rich mega preachers, they get to keep a certain amount of their business earnings private, and they don't have to answer certain questions about what they're making and things of this nature. It's all a money issue, This is free money. This is free money, not taxable. So, once you get used to a certain lifestyle, of course you want that church attendance because you want that tithe, because that tithe pays his bills. Every week before service, he puts up the monthly budget, the weekly budget actually, saying how much the church needs, for employees and things like this. It's $125,000 per week. So he puts this up to show us how much is needed.
Okay, let me stop you right there. $125,000 a week. There are people in this country don't even make $125,000 in a year. There are people who have to see. That's some people
Absolutely.
make only 20,000, 30,000, and he's telling you guys that he needs $125,000 a week to run his church a week, not in a month, not in a year, a week. Now, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. Have you seen him do $125,000 worth of help to anybody in that church?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. So if you down on your luck, and if you have your light bill, you're struggling, whatever, can you go to World Changers Church, and since you're a tithing member, can you ask them to help me with a light bill, or car problem, or something?
I'm sorry. That's a little funny. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
A department head held a meeting, and this person says, listen, a lot of times we know that you're having trouble, with car fare to get here for the meetings and things like that. And we want you to be able to come and talk to us. Let us know what's going on. And then the person goes, we probably can't help you, but we can point you to social services.
Okay.
This is what was said in the meeting.
Okay, let's stop right there. You're giving your tithe money to make up the $125,000, the $500,000 a month this guy needs to run his church. But yet, if you have an issue,
Correct.
I can't do nothing for you, but I could point you to social services. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, you know me, I keep it real. How much of that $125,000 in a week do you think you've donated? Let's be honest.
Not much. Not much. Not much.
Okay, give me a number. What's that much?
I would probably give $20 to $30 a week.
Okay, so you're giving about $80. Let's say $80 in a month, correct?
Right.
Okay, $80. Have you seen any benefits to giving that $80?
No, only grief.
Only what? Only grief?
Only grief.
See, this is the thing. There's a lot of people, and I'm going to talk about this real quick. I'm going to go Bible side for a minute. There's a lot of preachers in America that love to quote Malachi chapter 3 in the Old Testament. You notice they always go to the Old Testament to use that scripture
Absolutely.
that says, will a man rob God? They do that mess all the doggone time. But do you notice, do they say anything that Jesus stated about robbing God and you being cursed with a curse or anything? They don't take nothing out of Paul or nothing. They always using that one scripture to browbeat people into fear and submission to give me your money. And I tell people all the time, why don't you go to the end of the Gospels and read the Great Commission? Did anything in there that Jesus state in the Great Commission say, make sure you collect those tithes and offerings? Because I need that. He didn't say a word about tithes and offerings. What did he say? Pray, cast out demons, salvation, the important stuff, healing diseases, that, the things that matters to people. You think about it. If you read with the Gospels, you didn't see Jesus going to people's house say, well, yeah, I probably could pray for your kid, but I need some tithes, before I get there now.
Right.
Or Jesus didn't act like Pastor Dollar and say, well, I got to have the best donkey and the best ship, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm Jesus. I got to go all over Israel telling people about me. So I need y'all to give up them tithes and offerings. The Old Testament teach to give to the priesthood. He didn't say none of that stuff. And yet he's had more effect than Creflo Dollar than all over the centuries, okay? A guy who's asking for $65 million for a G650 plane that billionaires are lining up for, okay? But he says,
right.
And you stated, he can't fly a commercial because they don't fly his schedule. And this is something I didn't touch. He'll lie. Because when you have a schedule, you say, okay, I'm going to speak at this date. or let me see what airline flies to that part of the country or that part of the world at this date. And then you match your speaking engagements to if you can get a flight or not. He's a lie. The fact is, like you said, he don't want to be involved with the common folk. That's what it is.
Absolutely.
If you cannot shake hands with people that's giving you $125,000 a week, $500,000 a month, then obviously something is wrong with this guy, and I'm sorry, that is not godly. How can you sit in a church listening to a guy like that? Now, I'm going to ask you the same question. How did you sit into a church listening to a guy like that?
Well, like I said before, he's a good teacher. I can't take that away from him, but let me be clear. I have not participated in anything that I thought was shady, and that's a lot of things. So I can go hear that word. I can decide whether or not I'm going to tithe, and I can leave. I'm not putting any money into the $2 million that he wants for cameras, and I'm wondering what camera costs that much and why he can't use his own millions to pay for it. He's always talking about, oh, I don't get a salary from the church, and, I get all my earnings from my books. There's somebody right now buying a Creflo Dollar book. I don't own not one Creflo Dollar book. So it's easy for me to go in, hear a message, and go home and not get involved in all of that ridiculousness, because that's what it is. But most people, they follow, and they do whatever he says. Why? I don't know. I have to assume that they're gullible. I don't know.
But sister, cameras can get up to $2 million. I was gonna let you know. If you could do some research, you got cameras that I've looked at myself, and I was just curious what those real, TV cameras cost. Some of them are $80,000, $100,000 and up. I mean, they can get expensive.
Can I say one thing before you continue?
Go ahead.
That's not my problem. If you want top of the line $2 million worth of camera, use your own money. Why are you taking it from the poor neighborhood? You decided to buy a church on Fordham Road in the Bronx. Okay? This is a poor neighborhood. Take your $2 million and buy yourself $2 million worth of cameras so you can reach the world. Why are you making everything our responsibility? And let's not forget the book bags, please, back to school.
Well,
I don't want to get off the topic, but he's like, oh, we're going to give, back to school backpacks with supplies in it for the neighborhood. And then he turned around and asked each and every congregation member to donate $20 toward that cause. So who's doing it, us or him? Because when the time comes and the camera's out there, it's look what Pastor Dollar has done for the neighborhood. You understand what I'm saying? I
understand exactly what you're saying, but let me backtrack for a minute. When I was telling you about the $2 million, I was telling you, in other words, cameras can get to that price. I'm not saying anything more than that. Now, when it comes to why would he do that and he could pay for it himself, he collecting $500,000 a month from y'all. That's not even including the College Park, Georgia church. Man, let me tell you something. If you hustling, like you out here hustling, thugging, and anything else, and if you can get that money, he gonna get it. And you say he put it in a poor neighborhood because they know they can get money, especially out of black folks, because black folks are extremely religious. I mean, you could be out there twerking it up, acting like a thug, hood rat, but then Sunday you'll be in church talking about praise the Lord, and you'll be giving your tithes and everything else in church. And you know how a lot of times black people are with that situation, so let's go ahead and keep it real with that one. You acting like the devil Monday through Saturday, but Sunday morning, 11 o'clock, you up there trying to get rid of your sins for the week. But a lot of black people sit up there and give that money, so why in the world wouldn't he not do that? Here's the thing. That kind of money, listen, $500,000 a month just in that church. Imagine what you could do with that much money just within 6 months' time within a neighborhood. How many people you can help, how many kids you can help go to college that really need education. What kind of stimulus package would that be for that community to get themselves out of their own problems? It's so many things that could be done with that money, but yet the people is not realizing how much money they're bringing to these churches and nothing is happening. It'll be like if y'all gave that much money to the government and the government is not doing anything for you, you know y'all be pissed off. Y'all be ready to vote people out and everything else. But you really will, because you know I'm not giving. How people tell me I'm not giving the money to man. I'm giving the money to God. God don't need nothing from you. That tells you right there. You don't read the Bible, because the Bible says the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, and those that dwell therein. In other words, He don't need nothing from you. I mean, that's silly.
True.
People are silly because they don't read the Bible, and that's why I can't stand about most Christians. They don't know nothing about the Bible at all. But they and the things they know has nothing to do with anything that's important.
True.
I mean,
True. I'm one of those people that have said that I'm not giving it to him. I'm giving it to the ministry, because he does do good things around the world for other people. So when I've given, that's what I'm saying. I'm not giving it to him. I am giving it for the ministry to do things, outreaches and things like that. But it's just that he's not doing it in our community.
But see,
he does it around the world, and he gives us the annual report at the end of the year. Trust me, I'm not defending him, because after I heard about this whole jet thing, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Is he serious? And I was upset because he came back from his so-called sabbatical. Oh, yeah, I'm well rested. But he didn't even offer an apology for what he did.
Well,
he just continued on. Okay, let's start this new series, and he turned around and gave away 2 flat-screen TVs at the end of the service.
Now, is he known for giving away TVs or anything like that at church?
Never. There's never been a raffle, none of that, ever. That was his guilt. You couldn't even come to your congregation, who you get money from and supposedly love, and you want us to learn this and that. You couldn't even apologize for your wrong.
And that's
I'm not going to understand that.
He did not think that would go viral or it'll be all over the news. He thought that, hey, he'd asked y'all for 81 million before. What's the big deal asking y'all for 65 million? Because he is a preacher of the Lord, and he need that jet so he can look pretty and fly everywhere. But like I tell other people this, and I'm telling you the same thing. He probably could have got the money for that jet with no problems if the old jet had landed in Ferguson, Missouri, and you saw him out there with the people talking and trying to help with that situation. Maybe he could have got the money for that jet if he went to Sanford, Florida, and you saw Pastor Dollar out there. Maybe he could have got the jet. He was already in New York and out there with the people with Eric Garner, praying with Eric Garner's family. All the different cases that we've had. Tamir Rice in Cleveland. If you seen Pastor Dollar laying the old jet there, and there's Pastor Dollar, he's out there praying with people, talking. He's up there speaking truth to power about what's going on in society, which that's what preachers are supposed to do. Every preacher is that. I'm sorry, Jesus did it, Dr. King did it. Okay, and then they preach, God's word, and they was out there. They didn't stay in the 4 walls of their church looking like $1 million. That is not the Bible. These mega preachers doing that. How is it? They always say that to whom much is given, much is required. If God is giving you that much, then why aren't you out here more than anybody else? Why is that? And I'm sick of black people in these churches not making these preachers be accountable for nothing. How is it you got brothers and sisters being gunned down and beat up by the police, and none of these preachers, I'm not saying none of them are, but I'm talking about some of these mega preachers like Creflo Dollar, you don't see them nowhere, who has TV influence, who has millions of followers, who can actually get something done real quick, more than maybe a pastor who got 150 members or something like that. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So why is it that we have not seen Pastor Dollar at none of these events? Why is it you think that?
I couldn't tell you, except I know that plane wore out because there was trips with his kids and things like that. He used the jet for other purposes other than the ministry, but he would like people to believe it's just for the ministry.
Of course.
From what I
of course
understand, the jet broke down during the trip with his daughters. From what I understand, that's all I'm saying. I'm not stating it as a fact. You know, so now he needs a new jet. Okay, maybe the ministry needs a new jet. Let's say that. But why the fastest, most luxurious, most expensive jet in the world that there's a waiting list for? You can't explain that to me because I know he ain't going to let me ride on it. I can't even say hello.
Yeah, that's the funny part. He wants $65
You know what I mean?
dollars out of
Why
people.
would I hope you buy a jet?
He ain't let nobody ride on that jet. He ain't let you ride nothing. But these people, but they get mad at me. And when they see this video, they gonna get mad at me.
It's just his bodyguard.
You don't know what you talking about. And Pastor Dollar this and Pastor. Stop acting like a doggone slave. And stop being a lover of men and be a lover of God. That's your problem. You worship men too doggone much. Stop worshiping a man. Can't stand that. I can't stand quote unquote Christians who don't even know the Bible to know that junk is wrong, worshiping a man.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct.
Thou shalt have no other idols. Don't have idols.
Before me, absolutely.
Worship the true and living God, and that's your problem. You won't be sitting up there giving all your money to Creflo Dollar and whoever else you want to give money to and don't see any results. See, the black community invests heavy into the black church and you see no results. You don't see results in education. You don't see results in crime. How is it that we got churches all over the place in the black community and yet thugs is hanging around the churches or right down the street? How does that happen? But everybody donating their money instead of donating your money to get these thugs out or donating your money to fix the community. No, you're giving it all to these churches and these preachers buying they Cadillac Escalades and they nice Armani suits and whatever Stacey Adams shoes but y'all poor, y'all struggling. You're rubbing two nickels together. That's stuff I can't stand. You got like World Changers Church, at least in College Park, Georgia. Look, a beautiful place to look at in the middle of the hood. And nobody think that, wait a minute, we got this beautiful place. We invested all this money into this church. Why is it that we haven't seen the flow of cash start spreading outside of this church to look, to help the people in this local community? You say Pastor Dollar do things all over the world. But there's a scripture that states you start in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the other most parts of the world. In other words, start in your city, then start in your county, start in your state, do things in your country, then go to the world. If you're not taking care of home first, then you're out of order.
Thank you. Absolutely, and that is not happening. That's not happening. I think he's trying to keep up with the other mega pastors.
Okay, well, I don't know what he got going on. And then, you had stated to me that when you walk in the church, everybody's selling stuff all over the place as soon as you walk in.
Oh, books. Oh, yes, absolutely. Books. All his books. He just added recently some T.D. Jakes books and Joyce Meyer, but yeah, it's his books, his tapes, his CDs, everything, everywhere. The storehouse. He's literally a storehouse.
Well, didn't Jesus say, "My Father's house is be a house of prayer"? But you made a den of thieves. He started turning over them tables and beating people to get out of the temple. You remember when he did that?
Absolutely.
So Jesus felt he gonna start beating some folks.
This is a house of worship.
That's right. He gonna beat some folks to get out of there with that selling stuff. And why Creflo Dollar selling stuff as soon as you walk in the door of the church? I mean, it's nothing wrong with you selling books, but you don't do it as soon as you step in the door of the church.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
But people do not, and I'm going to stress this again. This is why you are easily deceived. Most people who follow, you easily deceived because, number one, you do not read your Bible. Number two, you don't trust your instincts to say, this maybe this stuff isn't right. You're not looking at the results of anything you're doing, but you just say, well, it was a good message. He sounded good. He teach good, or whatever. But what is evident in your life? I'm sorry, I'm not gonna listen to nobody that cannot help me, cause I don't get that kind of time to waste. Right. I'm not on unlimited time.
Well, I did hear about him helping one person, It was a homeless lady who's always serving in the church. And they were going out for an event in Georgia at his home-based church. And I heard that her ticket on the bus was paid for. Somehow he found out about it, and her ticket was paid for with a stipulation. She had to find somewhere to stay. So she ended up finding somebody to stay with.
Did she
was able to go on?
Okay, did he know she was homeless, or did somebody in the church say, "Hey, this lady homeless"?
Yes.
Okay, if you're homeless, you don't have nowhere to stay at your own city. So how's she gonna have to find somewhere to stay, man? Like, see, this. Oh my God, it's like, and y'all follow these people.
I wish that I was making this up. I really do. But this is what's going on at World Changers Church, New York.
Oh my God. It's like, and it's not.
And I would love to hear some spokesperson or somebody come out and say that it's a lie. I would love to hear that. So what needs to happen is there needs to be some changes made. But you can't seem to talk to the people, because when you try to talk to them like I did and say, so-and-so is going on, why is this going on? All of a sudden, I was kind of pushed to the side. And now nobody's talking to me because I made a so-called complaint, which really wasn't a complaint. It was what was going on, what I was seeing, what was happening inside. And I tried to go to the higher ups, and it was just a mess. All of a sudden, no one's talking to me. I said, what is going on here? But then you find out later on that people are being fired because they're not doing what they were doing. But I tried to tell you that. If you're so big that you can't take care of and be involved in what you trust your people to do, at some point, ask the people, what's going on? What do you think? Find out what's happening with the people that you trusted. Let's see if they're doing their jobs correctly. Then you would really know what's going on down the ladder since you're so high. But that doesn't happen. They kind of just push you to the side, like, well, this is how we do our thing, and if you can't get with how we do our thing, well, you just go. That's basically what I got. I was like, oh, okay. I have left that church literally in tears more than 6 times.
All right. Stop right there. Why would you go back to a church and go and leave 6 times? You say you was in tears, emotional, you hurt. Why would you go back to the church the 3rd time? Explain to me why.
Okay, I didn't want to go back, but people, other sisters that were in the same department and friends of mine at the church were telling me, oh, don't worry, God's going to work it out, and this, and that, and they just kept encouraging me. And I'm like, every time I came back, I didn't feel right. That's when I was like, okay, I can't put my money into a place like this because it doesn't make any sense. But people just kept encouraging me to come back.
Okay.
And that everything is going to dark and it's going to come to light. Quote you all the favorite scriptures out there that people don't even know what's before it and after it.
Okay, let me hold on. Okay, you say the 3rd time the sisters of the church convinced you, say the Lord will work it out.
No, now, from the beginning.
Okay.
From the beginning.
Okay. The 4th time you left, what happened there?
Same thing. I would just stay away, and then I would just come back because this was my church.
Okay. The 5th time, what happened?
Same thing.
Okay, so
I was trying to get in contact with people that were higher during this process to see if anything could be done. But this is when I was telling you that people kind of just said, oh, okay, we'll get back to you, and you never hear from anybody. You reach out through email, and now people are not responding to your emails as if you've done something wrong because there couldn't be anything wrong with them possibly,
Well, like I said, I'm telling anybody who's listening, one thing you're not going to do to Philip is make Philip feel unwanted, unwelcome, and then Philip's going to return. I don't care if it's a church. I don't care if it's your house.
That's exactly how I felt.
I don't care what it is. because you're not going to treat me like that, or at least make me feel that I'm not wanted, welcome, especially in the church house of all places. Because, you know, I know how a lot of these churches are. They got these little cliques, and they got these little drama queens in these churches with these women. And, you know, people talking about they parking spot and they seat and all this other stuff that go on in some of these churches. People thinking they all high and mighty because they got a position, and they thinking they 1 foot in heaven and everything else. You know, but if people are making you feel that way, I'm sorry, that's not church. Because church should be a place that you should be happy to go to, because you're supposed to be around Christian people who love God too, and y'all just on one accord. So if that stuff is going on, then you should not, you know, I'm sorry, I wouldn't return. Nobody can convince me to do a doggone thing about we'll come back.
This is what I'm telling you. That's why I realized this is not a church. It's a business. It's ran like a business. It's a business, because church is God. God is love. And no, that's not what you get when you go there. Sure, you have people that will greet you and do all the things that they need to do because they want to pass you that blue envelope, you know, and they want you to put money in it. You know, but when you start, you know, getting to know people and you start trying to serve and things like that, oh, you see a lot of shady business going on. I couldn't believe the contracts that were given to me. I was just like, are they serious? Like, you would have to be a person that has gotten burned so many times and taken advantage of, because they were like so defensive and offensive at the same time. Not realizing it, you know. Thank God that I've been through, you know, this studying on, you know, being offended and things like that. So a lot of things that I dealt with, somebody else wouldn't have dealt with. I'm surprised that there was a few things that happened in there that I heard about, you know, but I'm surprised that nobody has just like straight cursed them out. I'm really, really surprised.
Well,
it's not a church.
I mean, well, you really can't.
It's not a church.
You know, get mad and cuss him out because you can't even get to him to shake his hand enough to tell him anything. So, you know.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. You can't get to him. Not him, even to the higher ups. You can't get there. There's a certain chain of command, and you can only go but so high. Because if those people are not listening to you, do you think anybody else is going to listen to you? So what happens is your church is going to start to suffer, and they're not wondering why they can't get people to put on a show. They're not wondering why everything's falling apart. Okay, until it's too late. Until now nobody wants to serve, and they're like, oh, okay, there's a problem. Somebody was trying to tell you that.
So,
you know, but you're too high and mighty. You can't listen.
So let me say something and tell you before we wrap this up. So there are people that's going to that church right now. There's some diehard Creflo Dollar fans. Even though they saw this man ask for a jet, and they feel he needs that jet. And you know, at the end of the day, that's your money. You can give Creflo Dollar your whole check, sign it over to him every 2 weeks, every week. It's your business. Nobody gonna stop you. I mean, you know, unfortunately, a sucker is born every minute. Unfortunately, you know, I have to say it like that. But what would you say to people who are in attendance of World Changers Church, and now that you got the information out there, what would you say to them?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that there's much I can say, because when he stepped back on the stage after that G650 jet thing, he received a standing ovation for about 2 minutes. So I'm not sure what I can say to the fans of Pastor Dollar, except open up your eyes. Open up your mind. That's scripture. Ask God to open up your mind and your eyes to see what's really going on here. You know, don't be so gullible and just keep throwing your money into a situation that ain't coming back to you. You know, and I'm not saying that you give just to receive either, you know, but you got to take a look at things, because he's asking you to donate all this money to do things that you can do on your own. You can buy some school kid a backpack with supplies. You don't have to give him $20 so he can do it and get the glory out of it. He says he doesn't do things for the glory of all but God. That's a lie. It's an absolute lie. Open up your eyes, pay attention, see what's going on. Or better yet, if you have an issue, Bring it to the table. Bring it to the communications desk.
Now, one thing that she's told me after the conversation is that she forgot to mention something that we did talk on the first time, maybe a few days ago. Inside the New York church, they have metal detectors. You have to walk through a medical detector and be warned, and everything when you go inside of a church. I mean, like a jail. Now, all this that you heard, collecting $125,000 a week, and some people don't even make that in a year, collecting that much money to run the church. How much of that money is going to that community? And none. You mean to tell me you need $500,000 to run a church in 1 month? What you got going on in that you need that much money? But people, unfortunately, when you tie God to something, they are so easily deceived because, as I stated before in the interview, you do not read your Bible at all. What kind of Christian are you supposed to be? You don't read the Bible. You don't study the Bible. And that's why people like Creflo Dollar and other preachers like him can browbeat you into giving 10% of your income, and you don't see anything why you gave that. I mean, I tell black people all the time, stop giving so much money and focus your money the right way. I mean, it's okay to give and help out, but we need a stimulus package within our own community. And I don't think we need to be asking the federal government for a stimulus package for our community when we give so much money to the church. And yet the church isn't doing anything at all to help in our community, but yet we give so much money to them. And they look, people worship men like Creflo Dollar. And the purpose of that video in that interview is to hopefully wake up people that's in that church to say, you really want to be a part of that? You want to keep worshiping that man? I mean, now at the end of the day, people just gonna do what they want to do, and people gonna follow people blindly. I get that. But there are some people who do not follow people blindly, and maybe they need to see some part of information about something. This lady was on the production team in that church for a long while. And, as I stated, I didn't agree with her going back to that church many times. And I've told her that in the first conversation. I don't know why she did that. But some people are so used to doing things by force of habit and letting other people convince them of what what's wrong here. So, let me know what you think about, this video, Creflo Dollar, World Changers, Church. Is that something that you really want to participate in? Do you want to be forced to buy a song on iTunes? I mean, I would love to hear the opinions on that. Hit me up in the comments, choose your commentaries, subscribe.